Superhero movies are becoming repetitive, boring, and kind of bland, but Matt Reeves' Batman actually showed us why that might not be the case if studios decide to take and do the right things with some of these characters, and I'll explain why. So it's very, very obvious that in the last few years, especially with Marvel Phase 4, is that once a studio, i.e. Disney, i.e. Warner Bros, find something that works, they decide to churn out as much as they possibly can with that certain entity. Whether it be a franchise, a character, whatever it is, they want to churn out as much as possible on a little hamster wheel like a production line, because obviously it makes money. If it sells, it makes money, right? And this is the one issue that Phase 4 has, because after the success of Avengers Endgame and Phases 1 through 3, Disney were like, right, okay, we've got a new streaming service, we need every single MCU spin-off show humanly possible, and they were stretched thin. Not just the VFX teams, but directors, writers, and they were all pushed on a time limit, because the MCU wanted to produce about 10 things in an entire year, and it just wasn't going to work, and the quality suffered, and the quality is even suffering to this day, even after, Bob Iger and everyone has come out saying, the MCU is going to take a little bit of a step back, we're going to focus more on quality. Shows and movies now are still feeling the impact of this decision made around 5 years ago. So we know this is a phenomenon that happens with studios, especially with superhero films. However, The Batman was a prime example of how to do a superhero film, and I think this could be a blueprint going forward for the future of superhero movies in general. So let's take it back all the way back to 2013. So DC ultimately saw the success that Marvel had with the MCU, and of course Warner Brothers decided, hey, you know what, we need our own cinematic universe to rival the MCU, and DC ended up kind of doing the same thing that Marvel has been doing over the last few years, where they tried to rush as many things out as humanly possible, and it all started to kind of just fall apart. Now I know Zack Snyder cultists will tell you that the story he had was genius and there was nothing wrong with it, but let's be honest, they tried to introduce many characters like The Flash, like Wonder Woman, like Cyborg, all these different characters that deserve to be nurtured because they have a lot of history, and they're characters that can't just be explored lightly all way too quickly. They were just cameos, references, little appearances in Batman v Superman, or they were completely thrown into the Justice League movie when they probably shouldn't have been. And I think everyone will agree, as per the MCU, this is not the way to be doing things. But while all this was going on in the background, a well-known director known as Matt Reeves was working on a film called The Batman. Now, The Batman, unlike all of these films that DC were trying to make in Zack Snyder's universe, they kind of left Matt Reeves alone. They kind of just let him do his own thing, and he had more time with pre-production, he had more time with actual production, and he had more time with post-production. He was able to nurture the character of Bruce Wayne, introduce a villain that fit the tone of the world, fit the style of the world, not to mention he created the entire world from the ground up, introducing different characters that worked with and in line with this version of Gotham City, and overall the product that we got was probably one of the best DC pieces of media that we have gotten for a very, very long time. And there is no coincidence that that was the case. It was because of one simple thing. Matt Reeves was given time. And this has now become a blueprint, as much as no one really talks about it, but it has become a blueprint of how to really make a superhero movie. I think it's become almost a message. It's become an echo of what real directors and writers can do with characters such as Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, if they are given time. But this is one point that I'm really passionate about when it comes to comic book movies, because I don't really see anyone talking about it. I feel as though The Batman should be remembered as a film that kind of goes against all of the odds. At a time where superhero fatigue was said to be at its highest, because The Batman came out in that period where everyone was kind of sick of superheroes because Avengers Endgame just happened. Everyone was like, oh, we're getting so many Marvel movies. DC, the DCEU, some of the movies suck, and I don't know, things were just kind of going downhill. It was meant to be the start of Phase 4, and they had all these projects lined up. The Batman came out at probably some of the worst times for superhero movies in modern history, but yet managed to break the mold and still do something very, very special. Which I think proved that superhero movies can be new, refreshing, and interesting, even if there is a lot of them, if you take your time. So what is the point of this conversation? What is the point of this discourse? I think I just want to point out that going forward, Phase 4 and Phase 5, yeah, they aren't very good for the MCU, but luckily they are maybe starting to take this approach, and also with James Gunn's DC universe, hopefully this is sort of a philosophy as well. I know Warner Brothers are probably putting Gunn under a strict time regimen when it comes to delivering these films. However, hopefully they can take a page out of Matt Reeves' book and note that the Batman was successful critically and financially because they let Matt Reeves do whatever the hell he wanted, which I think is what they need to be doing with James Gunn's universe, and that is what needs to happen going forward in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially towards the latter half of Phase 5, and of course the start of Phase 6. And I wanted to point out that the Batman really is the blueprint for this, and I think Matt Reeves showed us how well Batman can be handled, and if Batman can be handled that well, then I think any superhero can be handled that well. But if you like this video, you're sure to like some of these videos on the screen as well at the moment. Thanks for watching, subscribe to the channel for more comic book videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, and peace.